Hi everyone, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. Thank you. So you're probably aware of the recent news regarding the Supreme Court for now talking about having what they call oral arguments in regard to the tariffs. And I dug into it a bit to find out, get a little more detail to understand what is going on. And first of all, before I get to that, you probably know that the consensus is that the arguments that were being posed by the various justices, notably absent as usual, as the leader of the pack from the corruption angle, namely Thomas, not a peep, but all the other ones did say something, and a majority appeared to be questioning Trump's power to do this. And so most legal experts think that they are likely to object, to turn him down, to rule that this is a power that is to be exercised by Congress. And they'll probably have to say that they don't see how you can just point to emergencies that aren't there and create a false perception about what is going on. And so then, if that were true, it would have to go back to Congress. But when you dig into the detail, it turns out that most of the tariffs do fall under a law that he's using to impose them in the first place, a law that originates in 1977, but not all the tariffs. Some of them, I think it's something like a quarter of them or maybe a little less, fall under a different jurisdiction. And you have to realize that when these courts make rulings, they tend to point to exactly what they apply to. And so even if the Supreme Court ruled you can't do this anymore, Congress has to pass it. Nevertheless, some of them would still remain. And secondly is the question that even if they turn him down and he's left with a much reduced set of tariffs, apparently he has other means, other ways to apply levies, to use various bureaucratic norms to still keep lots and lots of tariffs in place. But it would nevertheless be a pretty disruptive outcome, which I don't think he likes, because Trump, it's always the perception he will feel like if they say I can't do this, then it'll be viewed as a loss. Yes, that's true too. But that does match the incredibly complicated scenario that he is navigating through. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit if it turned out that way. And here's the thing though, just knowing this guy and what he thinks tariffs are, because I think he's got this thing stuck in his head since he was much younger. He's always believed that this is the way to do things, which now that we look at the situation, one of the key things about tariffs that he likes, well, more than one, but the top of the level is that they provide money, because importers have to pay money, but then he gets access to that money more easily than if he didn't get that money. That's another quirk in the system we have right now. Normally, money is apportioned by the Congress, but this way he literally has access to billions, which is part of the secret, where he can apply it to all kinds of things that we consider, wrong, literally. And the other thing about it is that he likes them because that way he can play mob boss and have foreign leaders come to him and cut deals and put him in the power position, and so he likes that kind of thing. But as I say, the situation is dicey in terms of the transits, and curiously, as often happens in astrology, the degrees where Saturn is now, this is something I had said earlier in the year, that we would see the tariff situation come to fruition late in the year, because the Liberation Day thing that he did in early April, that's where Saturn was. It's in the same degrees. Saturn was at the 25-degree range, went forward into Aries in the summer, retrograded back, and now it's back at Liberation Day degrees, and it's going to park there for the whole month. What I was getting at mostly was that we would also start to see the consequences, because of the fact that people are noticing things cost more, and the unemployment numbers are going up. You're getting all kinds of metrics, which, interestingly, he and his cronies are trying to hide because they don't want us to know. But the problem is that this information will circulate no matter what. So good luck, with trying to keep it under wraps. This is a topic that is not good for him, but much like he doesn't know that health writ large is also not a good topic for him. And he touched the third rail in 2020 by the way he handled COVID and got in a lot of trouble. And now he's falling for it again, because if we look at the current situation with the shutdown, it's fundamentally driven by an argument about healthcare, which he is certain to lose because of the way it's configured in his chart. But taxes and levies and tariffs come next because of the fact that there's so much energy right now in the 8th house, especially Saturn. It's not a good scene. You shouldn't be doing it. But here's the final point, the conclusion, and it's that whatever happens now, in terms of what they decide, how he reacts to it, I doubt that he would ignore them, create a constitutional crisis and say, well, I'm just not going to listen to you. I mean, there's a possibility of that. If he did that, it would be even worse for him, but probably not. However, this logic that I heard described by an expert, where the person said, yeah, but he can still do it through other means, that's what he's most likely to do. And so then he will walk himself into another third rail, the one that comes next year, because Saturn will move in on him. You've heard me say this repeatedly. And so what will happen is that the cycles in 2026 will mirror the fact that he is stubbornly staying with something that is just not good for the economy. It might maybe in some way far down the line, but most politicians avoid things like tariffs like the plague, because they know that things are happening election to election and it doesn't work out well. And we're a year away from the next big election. So if you maintain this current position around tariffs, it's not going to go well, which is what I think he's going to do, and effectively make the transits come true, though of course not in a good way for him.